When we look back at modern Indian military history, one moment stands out as the turning point that reshaped South Asia's security balance. The Uri Surgical Strike on the night of September 28, 2016. For decades, Pakistan had enjoyed the illusion that its nuclear shield gave it a free hand to wage proxy wars against India through terrorism. The belief in Islamabad's corridors of power was simple. India would always show restraint no matter how grave the provocation because of the looming threat of nuclear escalation. But that illusion was shattered forever when Indian special forces crossed the line of control, neutralized multiple terror launchpads, and then made the bold decision to go public about it. That single disclosure not only broke a psychological barrier but also introduced the world to a new India, an India that was no longer bound by silence but one that would retaliate with precision and confidence. This was the birth of escalation dominance, a doctrine that has since defined India's military posture and forced Pakistan into a corner. In September 2016, on the same day when India carried out its first publicly acknowledged cross-border operation, popularly referred to as the Uri Surgical Strike, it initiated a fundamental change in how South Asian security landscape functioned. For decades, Pakistan had relied on a strategy of covert proxy war under the shadow of nuclear deterrence, confident that India's restraint would prevent escalation. The disclosure of the 2016 strikes by New Delhi, however, marked a departure from this pattern. It introduced the idea that India was now willing to act overtly, demonstrating escalation dominance in the subcontinental context. Foreign analysts and military strategists regarded this surgical strike as a landmark because it broke the psychological barrier that has constrained India since the 1999 Kargil War. India had traditionally followed a policy of strategic restraint, even in the face of high casualty terror attacks under UPA governments such as the 2008 Mumbai carnage. The perception in global security circles was that New Delhi would not risk escalation with a nuclear-armed neighbor. The 2016 operation challenged this narrative. India showed the world that it could plan, execute, and disclose a precision military strike across the line of control without sparking uncontrolled conflict. By owning the operation publicly, New Delhi also signaled to Islamabad and international observers alike that it was ready to call out Pakistan's nuclear bluff. Analysts have termed this ability to raise the cost of Pakistan's actions while still controlling the ladder of conflict as India's acquiring escalation dominance. This shift had two implications. First, it delegitimized Pakistan's reliance on plausible deniability since India's disclosures were backed by intelligence briefings to foreign governments. Second, it reassured the international community that India's approach, although retaliatory, was still calibrated deterrence, not reckless escalation. The immediate aftermath of the 2016 strikes revealed contrasting strategies in information warfare. Pakistan's military establishment chose outright denial, dismissing India's claims as fabricated drama. Domestically, this allowed the Pakistani leadership to avoid admitting a breach of its defenses. Internationally, however, Islamabad's denials clashed with India's proactive diplomacy. New Delhi briefed major capitals including Washington, London, and Moscow within hours of the operation. Leaks from US intelligence suggested that American surveillance had indeed picked up an unusual military activity along the LOC around the time India reported the strikes. This time, battle of narratives was also critical. India had seized the initiative on the ground and also in shaping the international discourse. With its denials falling flat on their face, Pakistan was diplomatically boxed in. Islamabad's insistence that nothing happened undermined its credibility, while India's disclosures aligned with the growing global recognition of Pakistan as a hub of cross-border terrorism. The surgical strike set the stage for India's airstrike on Balakot in February 2019. After the Pulwama terror attack that killed 40 CRPF personnel, India escalated beyond the LOC to strike deep inside Pakistani territory in Khyber region. That move was another step on the escalation dominance ladder, from cross-LOC raids to air power projection. The Balakot strike was made possible because the 2016 operation had normalized India's right to respond to terrorist attacks militarily in a limited, calibrated manner with no collateral damage. Internationally, the narrative of a responsible India exercising surgical options gained traction. Once again, Pakistan responded with denials about damage coupled with retaliatory air operations that failed to alter the perception of Indian resolve. Balakot also set a clear tone. The 2016 precedent was not to be considered an on-off political move, but seen as an overall doctrinal shift. India was now prepared to cross thresholds that were once deemed too risky while still framing its actions as a counter-terrorism rather than conventional war. The evolution of India's military responses culminated in Operation Sindoor, a codename for the latest publicly acknowledged retaliation against cross-border terror infrastructure. Building on the foundation laid in 2016 and 2019, Sindoor showcased a more sophisticated doctrine of responsible retaliation. Unlike in 2016 when the emphasis was on proving capability, or in 2019 when the emphasis was on reach, the Sindoor operation emphasized integration, combining precision strikes, cyber disruption, and coordinated information campaigns. It underlined India's ability to escalate in multiple domains while retaining control over the tempo of conflict. Foreign analysts have noted that the Sindoor operation represents the maturity of India's strategy, calibrated military action paired with diplomatic outreach to preempt international criticism. By now, India has institutionalized a doctrine of limited war under the nuclear overhang, closing the space that Pakistan once exploited. The 2016 surgical strikes were more than a tactical success. They were a doctrinal turning point. By going public, India demonstrated that it could combine military power with strategic communication to alter the rules of engagement in South Asia. The move stripped Pakistan of plausible deniability, gained tacit international acceptance, and set the stage for subsequent actions like Balakot and Sindoor. As a result, India's security posture today is no longer defined by restraint alone, but by responsible retaliation. This evolution has rebalanced the security dynamics of South Asia, establishing India as a state willing to defend its interests with calibrated force while still avoiding uncontrolled escalation.